with their nails done now.
The movie starts with a sea with a huge waves and storm on it. Later there seems a fishing yacht which is stuck in it and down is being written. Somewhere in the Pacific Ocean. The waves were hitting the yacht very hard. Even the thunder were hitting it sometimes. When one of the thunderbolts hit the yacht, a two-man we got dropped in ocean and disappeared in waves soon. One man saw them dropping and he told the captain to have turned the yacht back, but captain answered that he couldn't because the waves were pushing him. After few minutes of this nightmare the yacht got on the calm sea, then everyone saw that they just came out of the huge storm and they turned around and saw the island. Then there was a tidal Skull Island. Everyone was looking excited, but then one rock got their mind. It was just a giant mountain-like rock, but then they saw a giant ape standing on it. They started to panic, but then they noticed that he wasn't even looking at them. Gorilla we know as Kong was staring at the storm with a scared face. They found time and they got on the island. After 10 seconds they saw two Osprey helicopters, cause there was an outpost on Skull Island and they noticed them. They landed their Ospreys and picked up the fishermans, and they left soon. After that Kong's face was getting more scared and scared. But he got brave and looked at the storm with an angry eyes, and then he saw a blue lighting coming from the storm which is around island. Then he saw a figure which was being seen through thunderbolts. It was getting closer and closer and we saw a very familiar face. It was Godzilla. He was bit changed from Godzilla King of the Monsters event. He looked at Kong like he had seen him before. After a minute of silence Kong roared at Godzilla. Godzilla roared too. And Godzilla's roar had put the island into chaos. Bats started to rise, and wildlife was running fast as hell. Kong got angry and jumped from his rock to hit Godzilla. Godzilla was standing in water with half of his legs. Godzilla stood back and Kong jumped on the sea. Then Godzilla hit Kong with his giant tail and Kong got pushed back to the beach. Then Godzilla went towards him. Kong recovered soon and stood up. Godzilla confronted Kong and bit him in the neck, and he was dragging Kong to the center of the island. When he finally got Kong there, Kong got out from Godzilla's neck and started to push him in the face. Godzilla fanned his tail. Kong jumped up and got on the neck of Godzilla. He soon got Godzilla ground and he started to push him in the face. He hit 4 times, but then Godzilla hit his tail to Kong and Kong got off Godzilla. Godzilla was standing up and we see a blue lighting on his tail. Kong was climbing on a giant mountain to then have jumped down to Godzilla. Back of Godzilla was being filled with blue color, and Kong jumped down to hit Godzilla. Godzilla unleashed his atomic breath and hit Kong in the air. It affected Kong, but he anyway jumped and hit Godzilla. This was a heavy hit, so it set a dust there. Kong was exhausted and he was looking for Godzilla in the dust. Then here comes a Godzilla's face. He is looking at Kong like he hasn't even been hit. Godzilla turned back. He hit his tail again. But this time it was 4 times stronger. Kong flew away and he crashed to a giant rock. Then he got knocked out so hard. Godzilla was going towards him with a face of devil. He had a scary face as hell. Kong was trying to get up, but Godzilla stepped on his chest and he could kill Kong by just pushing it harder. Kong knew that he could die, but he was keeping his angry face. Godzilla looked at Kong once again and then he just took his leg off from Kong's chest. He showed mercy. Then Godzilla turned back and went towards the ocean. Kong was getting up, when Godzilla swam into the ocean. He disappeared in the water. Kong stood up and looked at the storm where Godzilla was gone. He started roaring loudest he could. And this brings us to a title, Godzilla vs. Kong. After that there is a title 1 week later. There is a city entitled New York. We see Madison Russell, which is coming back from school. She is getting in a quite rich house. Then we see Mark Russell and Dr. Chen, who got married and they live together. There was Dr. Chen doing his houseworks. Madison had a depression after everything she saw 1 year ago and she sat on the sofa to watch some TV. Then Mark Russell came from kitchen and sat next to her. He was about to say something when phone called him. Mark got up to answer and it was Sam. Yeah, Sam Coleman. He called Mark and told him that they needed him and Dr. Chen in the Castle Bravo. Mark said okay, and then he sat next to Madison again and he told her, "I'm sorry. I've to leave. Babysitter will take care of you." Madison stared at him for 5 seconds and then she just hugged him. Then Mark told Dr. Chen and they left. Soon they got visited by Osprey helicopter and they flew away. In Osprey there was a silence till Mark asked, "Why did you need us?" Then Sam answered, "We have new technology that America gave us and we want you to test it." Mark asked what was that and Sam answered that it was some kind of a cannon with powerful shot and we were curious about it and we wanted you to check it. Mark asked, so that's why you made me come here? Far away from my daughter? He started shouting. Then Dr. Chen was trying to calm him down. Then pilot said that they were here. Dr. Chen decided to take a look to Castle Bravo. It was more modern-like base than it was in 2019. It was more huge and more safe. Then Chen asked, how could you? Then Sam answered, we were still building this in 2019. Don't you remember? Chen answered, yeah, but I didn't expect this far. Then Osprey went into the base and landed. They took Mark and Chen to check a new cannon, a shooting cannon. After that they should have met in a meeting center. While going to a meeting center, Mark saw a giant axe which was still getting built, and he asked, what is this? Sam answered, it's an axe. We are planning to make Mecha Titan for some situations that we won't be able to control. Mark looked back at axe and continued walking. When they met in the discussion center, Mark was angry. He was asking why they brought him there. He knew that they would not bring him just because of a cannon. Then Canolan, Admiral of a G team, answered, we see Godzilla moving around one island only, where we are having an outpost. He is surrounding the island from 200 kilometers and he is swimming around it all the time. We wanted you to come and find out what's happening. Mark said, show me the photos. They showed photos on monitors and Mark said, maybe because Godzilla is afraid that this Titan which is on the island, is up to do something. They agreed. Then one of the men from the Monarch came out. He was new buddy. Let's call him David. He said that they should have gone there. Mark asked him, who are you? David introduced himself and he advised them again to have gone on Skull Island and have found out what was happening. Then they told Mark that he lost his father. Mark got a bit sad. Then we are seeing Isla Damara where seems volcano and Rodden's wing. Rodden is sleeping there. After that we get to see a destroyed village. After a few seconds there is arriving a NASA spaceship-like airship, which has logo on it. And there is written @Ankalgon. Village was destroyed over a year ago, so there were some lizards living there. When airship landed at the road of the village, every lizard ran. We see evil person coming down from the ship. Later there seems two twin girls with him, like Gamora and Nebula. Then one of the Ankalgon's soldier calls this old person, Mr. Conrad. Is this that place you told us? Then Conrad, from Kong Skull Island, which was pretty old, answered, yes. That is it. Then we see a shot of twins, one of them is Isa Gonzalez. Then one fat doctor is coming down from the ship, who was always complaining. Then in front of them we see an entrance of underground bunker. They go towards it and we see the door opening. And here comes Alan Jonah with some of the mans from the bunker. Alan and Conrad hugged each other and Alan invited them inside. They got inside and they went towards one room. They opened the door and they showed them Ghidorah's head. After enjoying some tea, Conrad told them that they wanted to take it. Then one man said that it'd be $13,000. Then Ankalgon guys showed up their guns, and they made them to have given Ghidorah's head for free. They took Ghidorah's head outside with a truck. Then Ankalgon boys somehow attached Ghidorah's head on airship with some really big ropes. They got in the airship. Alan Jonah followed them too. They lifted off and left. Before lifting off, airship made some crazy noises. Rodden woke up and he saw a giant airship which was taking Ghidorah's head. Rodden got shocked. He remembered everything what happened 1 year ago, and he didn't want anything like that to happen again. He got angry. He was more burning than he was 1 year ago. He stood up and slowly started flying towards the airship. Ankalgon saw him and they started flying fast. Rodden chased them. The spaceship was flying above the sea and Rodden was right behind it. They turned their max speed but Rodden was still chasing it. They started shooting rockets from special weapons that were on spaceship, but it didn't even affect Rodden. Rodden was about to get them when one soldier told Conrad they should have turned to the right because there was a village, another village, not Isla Damara, and Rodden wouldn't want to destroy the village cause of Godzilla, so they turned to the right and got near to the village. Rodden noticed the village and he flew up so his wind force wouldn't burn the village to the ground. Rodden was chasing them from above. The village was not big so they flew out soon. Rodden started coming down. Then they turned the spaceship to mountains. There were too many mountains and Rodden was chasing them anyway. Then ship turned back and flew right under Rodden. Rodden tried to turn back but he crashed to one of the mountains and he got knocked out. When they finally got out from there they continued flying and they disappeared soon. After few hours we are seeing city Tokyo and a bit far from there is one laboratory which is called Divinesco. They were helping Ankleon. Tokyo police had a doubt about this place, but when they checked this place, there was too much money paid for it, so they didn't shut it down. They brought Ghidorah's head there. Alan Jonah came down and the scientists hugged him. Looks like they knew him before. They gave Ghidorah's head to them and soon they made the head empty from blood. They distributed blood in 2 different containers. The most amazing part is that the blood was still lighting. After that, Alan Jonah made the Ankleon to have brought the ships cause they were going on Skull Island. After that there seems a ship which is going in the ocean. We see Alan Jonah which is explaining soldiers that they should get Ghidorah's blood and Kong's blood. Why? Because they wanted Titans to control over the earth and Godzilla wasn't allowing them and he was keeping them away. So they would have made Kong stronger. Kong would kill Godzilla. Then one of the soldiers shouted, "Okay, Kong killed Godzilla, what then? Do we have a guarantee that he will let Titans do whatever they want?" Alan Jonah answered, "No. And that's why we kept another half of blood in laboratory. We will make something that will kill Kong." "What will it be?" asked soldier. Alan Jonah answered, "You'll see." Then another soldier shouted who was that Kong and why he was more important than other Titans. Then James Conrad joined the conversation and he said that he would tell them everything. He started telling legend about Kong. And we see a Skull Island. There was a sunset and there was chaos on Skull Island. 2 gorillas were fighting with many lizards. They were male and female and the female gorilla was pregnant. They were fighting so bloody, and they felt that they were going out of power. Male gorilla signed female that he would take care of the lizards, and there was the Kong born. Mother gorilla took him while father gorilla was protecting them. Mother gorilla hid Kong in a small cave where he'd be safe. The gorillas killed all the lizards, I mean skull clawers, but they were damaged so much and they were going out of blood. They were dying when small Kong came out. They died soon. And all Kong could do is to roar and cry. Small Kong roared loudest he could and we get back to the soldiers. Some of them were even crying. Then Alan Jonah, who had no emotion, said, "Okay, get ready, we are almost there." Then we see helicopters which are holding a cannon in which was Ghidorah's blood. They put Ghidorah's blood in the cannon because they should have shot that to Kong. They soon flew up and started flying towards the island. They soon got into the storm. But they came out too fast without any big trouble. They arrived on the island. They put their cannon on the ground, which was pretty big. Kong wasn't seen yet and soldiers knew that he wouldn't appear. So they started burning up forests to have made Kong to appear. Kong noticed them soon and he went towards the burning forest and he was trying to stop the fire. Then cannon shot at Kong, and Kong got grounded. They started leaving the island when Kong got up. First it seemed that this shot didn't have any effect on Kong, but then Kong charged and he was feeling super cool. He was feeling like he was reborn. Helicopters were leaving already when Kong looked at them. Then Kong looked at the burning forest, and he realized that humans burnt almost half of the forest. He got so angry and he decided to take revenge on humans. He didn't know any organizations or anything, he just wanted to kill some people. He went towards the beach and jumped in sea, and he started swimming towards the nearest island. After he jumped in a sea, we see a ground shaking like something was coming from there. Kong was swimming fast as hell. That's because of he was charged in lighting. After an hour of swimming we see him going to other island and there we see a title, Gisborne, New Zealand. After that we get to see a family which is having a picnic, and they hear the roaring of Kong. They look at the beach and they see Kong which was rising from the water. He was looking super scary, and he saw a small village and he saw humans too. He soon remembered what he came here for and he started destroying village. Of course when he was swimming Monarch noticed him and they followed him, and they were shooting the Kong to stop him. They were shooting everything they had but Kong was very strong and he kept destroying the village. Then we get to see shot of Julian Dennison. He was running out from a small house and he looked at Kong which was burning everything to the ground. Then Kong saw Julian and went towards him. Julian was so scared and he was just looking at Kong. Kong was about to hit him when he heard the roar of Godzilla. Kong looked at the ocean and he saw Godzilla which was looking with super angry face. Godzilla didn't seem to be happy about what Kong was doing, and Godzilla roared at him once again. Kong was looking at him like he wanted to say, "Don't get in my way." Godzilla went towards him. Kong went towards him. And the fight begun. Godzilla first tried to bite Kong but Kong soon dodged and hit Godzilla. Godzilla tried once again, but as it appeared Kong was much stronger than Godzilla because Kong was lighting, but Godzilla was trying to stop him anyway. Kong got to Godzilla's jaw and he was trying to break it, but then Godzilla bit him in the fingers. Kong didn't lose fingers. But it was too painful. Then Kong looked at his hands, he realized his power again, he charged his hands and he hit Godzilla. This was so strong that Godzilla flew away and he got knocked out. Kong was feeling super cool and he went towards Godzilla. Godzilla recovered and stood up. Kong charged again and he hit his feet to Godzilla. Godzilla flew away again and he got dropped in a sea. Kong jumped on his back and he was pushing him in the face. Godzilla was close to death, when Kong looked back at the village which was destroyed. He looked at the people which was crying and who was helping the survivors. Kong felt guilty. He realized that not every human on the earth is evil. Then we start to hear some noises which are coming from Godzilla. Kong felt strange, and then Godzilla struck him with atomic breath and Kong got pushed away. Kong was burned also. Then Godzilla stood up. He was so damaged and he looked at Kong once again with an intimidating face. Kong was feeling guilty for killing innocent. He didn't attack anymore, he just swam in the ocean and he started swimming towards the Skull Island. Godzilla was feeling exhausted and he swam in the sea. After that we get to see James Conrad, which is sitting in the room and holding the photo of Madison Weaver from Kong Skull Island. Then Isa Gonzalez came in. If you remember, she was his daughter. Then Isa Gonzalez said that she was missing her mother. Conrad told her that he missed her too, as it was found out Mason and Conrad were married and they got 2 twin sisters, and when the daughters were 8 years old Mason had died with a cancer. Then Isa got tears and she left the room. After that we see Kong, which is swimming towards the Skull Island. When he finally got to Skull Island he stopped on the beach and he was so tired. He started breathing so heavily when the giant bat-like creature, Kamazotz, attacked him. It was the creature which came from the ground. He attacked Kong, he bit him in the neck. Kong tried to take him out but Kamazotz got on his neck and Kong got so angry. Kamazotz was biting him but then Kong finally got him and he dropped him on the lake. And we saw a skull clawer which Kong killed 47 years ago. Kamazotz fell next to Skeleton, and Kong kept him to the ground. Kamazotz was feeling bad and then Kong got his feet up from Kamazotz and he made Kamazotz to bow down to him. After that we get to see a laboratory of Ivanesco which started creating something. Alan, Jonah and Conrad came out and asked the fat doctor about the details. The fat doctor didn't say anything much about it, he just said that this creature which they were making would be very brutal. Then Alexander Skarsgård came, he was doctor also, and asked, "Have you made up name for it?" Then fat doctor answered, "Yes. JM07. Then Alan Jonas said that they'd better start it soon. They started making it. In the center there was some big hole and other small holes around it. They started creating the monster. After that we get to see Godzilla, which is swimming in the ocean, and we soon get to see the Gisborne, which is completely destroyed. Monarch was picking up survivors with vehicles and they were taking them to the safe places. We see Mark Russell, which is arriving in Gisborne with Osprey helicopter. There are some soldiers with him too. Mark saw Sam, which was also in Gisborne. Mark asked him with a bit angry face, "You told me that this Titan couldn't swim." Sam answered, "He couldn't. But he can." After that we get back to a Ivanesco laboratory in which we see doctors which are looking at something. Alan Jonah came in and we see small rooms and monsters were caged inside. There were 18 crab-like creatures, and 19th was 5 bigger than the others and they were sleeping in their small containers. After that we get to see Alexander Skarsgård, Isa Gonzalez and James Conrad, who were sitting and they were drinking Pepsi. Conrad was sad. He was missing his wife, and then another twin, who was played by Daisy Ridley, joined the conversation and she sat next to them. She said that this was a mistake. Then Conrad looked at her with a bit angry face and he asked her, "What is a mistake?" Another twin, let's call her Patricia, said that all of that was a mistake. Titans shouldn't have controlled over the earth and such things. Then Alan Jonah joined them and he told Patricia that she should have calmed down and have listened to him. Patricia started shouting at Alan Jonah. Alan Jonah couldn't keep his anger and he slapped her in the face. Then Conrad got up and hit Alan Jonah. Jonah got grounded and they heard alarm noises. They ran out immediately. Then they looked at the laboratory. The glass was broken, and the crabs were escaped. Only Big One was left. Then Ankaelgon prepared the soldiers, but then Alan Jonah stopped them and he told them that the Big One needed to be fed. That meant that those crab-like creatures would eat humans in Tokyo and they would feed Big One. After that they just go back inside the laboratory and wait. After that we get to see 3 weeks later, we see Lady who is making a poster that somebody disappeared, and we get to see other posters of people disappearing. There was a chaos in Tokyo. 40-50 human would disappear every day, and that's why they started evacuating city. Soon Tokyo was completely empty. It became a ghost town. After that we get to see scientists which are working to make this Toroya bigger, but then the crabs are attacking the laboratory too. Scientists were running, but the crabs were 3 times bigger than humans and they were eating them. The crabs set their complete chaos. After that we get to see inside the building. We see Alan, Jonah, Conrad and the twins are running together. For some reason there wasn't that fat doctor. While running, one of the crabs caught Patricia, one of twins, and it was lacerating her so bloody. Then it dropped her finger away. Conrad caught the finger which the crab threw at him accidentally. Conrad couldn't do anything but to run. After that we see them going outside and getting in the spaceship. They get into spaceship and they are lifting off. Then one of the crabs destroyed a gas balloon-like thing which was keeping radiation inside. There were too many things like that, and we get to see that Evan's laboratory is halfway destroyed. Then we get to see giant red devil-like monster, Beast Toroya, which is rising from there, and he is roaring so loud. The loud was so loud that Godzilla and Kong heard that call. After that we get to see shot of Methuselah, Scylla and Behemoth which are sleeping, and they also hear the call. They're about to stand up, but then they remember who is their true king and they continued sleeping. We also get to see a shot of Titanus Sekhmet, Yamato no Orochi and even Mokumbim, who are also ignoring the call. We see Kong which is seeming a bit angry and he is preparing to go to the call. He is picking the Kamizotz and he is swimming in ocean once again, and he is swimming towards the call place to stop whatever it is there. We also get to see the shot of Godzilla which is getting on land and he is walking on Isla de Mara. We see him roaring and Rodin comes with him. Godzilla picks up Rodin and they are leaving Isla de Mara. Godzilla swam in the ocean and Rodin was sitting on his dorsal fins. After that we get to see the split screens of Godzilla and Kong. They are both swimming towards the place where they heard the call, while Beast Toroya is still there feeding to grow bigger. After an hour of swimming we see Godzilla getting on the land and he is looking around and nobody seems there. We see Rodin which is flying up. Godzilla was about to continue walking when Kong came from the dark and pushed him in the face. Godzilla got hit, but he hit his giant tail to Kong and Kong flew away. And he jumped in Tokyo. Godzilla was going towards Kong. Kong recovered and stood up. Godzilla confronted Kong. Kong jumped up and he hit Godzilla in the face. Godzilla looked at him and he bit him in the neck. And he was dragging Kong. Kong was hitting him in the neck and he finally got out from Godzilla's jaws. And he got Godzilla to the ground and he was hitting him in the face. Godzilla charged his atomic breath and he shot his atomic breath to Kong. Kong got pushed away, and we get to see few Monarch helicopters which are arriving at Tokyo, and they watch Godzilla and Kong fighting. Kong was damaged but he stood up, and he went towards Godzilla. Godzilla was ready to get him, but Kong jumped up and he hit Godzilla so strong. He got Godzilla grounded, but then Godzilla used his tail and he hit Kong in the face. Godzilla stood up and he got Kong and he dragged him to one of the buildings and they destroyed building. Then Kong hit Godzilla in the face. Godzilla turned back and he hit his tail to Kong's feet and Kong got knocked out. Godzilla was charging his atomic breath. Kong got up and Godzilla struck him with atomic breath. Kong got grounded, and when Godzilla finished his atomic breath he roared at Kong. Kong stood up and soon he jumped near Godzilla and he hit Godzilla. Godzilla confronted him. They were fighting so brutally. Kong hit Godzilla and Godzilla wasn't feeling good. Then we get to see a Kamizotz flying towards Godzilla. But then Rodin flew in and he attacked Kamizotz. This scene was amazing. Kong and Godzilla at the city and Rodin and Kamizotz in the sky. Kamizotz attacked Rodin. Rodin dodged and he got higher than Kamizotz. And then Rodin caught Kamizotz and he was dragging him to the ground. After that we see Godzilla which is dragging Kong to the building and he knocks Kong. Kong stood up and hit him in the face. Godzilla hit his tail. Kong caught Godzilla's tail and he pulled Godzilla in an air. Since he was charged he could do that, and he threw Godzilla at one of the buildings. After that we see Rodin which pushing Kamizotz away and he is attacking Kong. Kong tried to catch Rodin, but then Rodin flew at his back and he beat his feet into Kong's back and it hurt Kong so much. After that there is Kamizotz which is awakening and he is attacking Rodin. Kamizotz got Rodin of Kong and they continued fighting. Kong went towards them to help Kamizotz, but Godzilla hit his tail to Kong and Godzilla threw Kong away. As it seemed, Godzilla stood up after being thrown. Godzilla was looking at Kong with a super scary face. Kong got so much angrier and he charged again. And he went towards Godzilla to hit him. Godzilla dogged it and Kong hit a building. After 2 seconds Godzilla bit him in the neck and he was biting Kong so painfully. Kong was hitting him in the neck but it wasn't affecting Godzilla. After 1 minute of dragging Godzilla brought him to one of the building as he smashed Kong at it. Kong was feeling so bad and Godzilla looked at him. Then Kong charged once again. And he knocked Godzilla with his feet. Godzilla got knocked out and Kong started to hit him. Soon he got interrupted by Rodan. Rodan just crushed at Kong but after 3 seconds only Kamazotz got Rodan out from Kong. Kong looked back at Godzilla. His dorsal fins were blue. Kong realized what it was but it was too late because Godzilla struck him with atomic breath and he pulled him away.
Kong got pulled away. Godzilla stopped his atomic breath, and he went towards Kong. Kong was charging his hands. He stood up and hit so strong. Godzilla got hurt, but he anyway attacked Kong. Godzilla struck and he started pulling him. Kong slided under Godzilla's legs, and he got on his neck. Godzilla was trying to take him out, but Kong wasn't letting him. After that we see Rodan and Kamazotz which are still fighting each other. Rodan bit Kamazotz in a wing, and he was dragging him down. Kamazotz fell on Godzilla's dorsal fins. Godzilla took him out, and he continued fighting with Kong. Just imagine guys, 15 to 20 minutes fight without humans. Godzilla was biting Kong. Kong got out from his jaw, and he bit him in the jaw. Godzilla tried to bite him again. Kong dodged and hit him again. Godzilla didn't miss this time, and he got to Kong's hand, and he knocked Kong down. Kong got up soon, and he hit Godzilla with his charged hands. Godzilla's eyes were damaged, and he attacked Godzilla and he scratched Kong's chest so painfully. This fighting was so brutal. Both Kong and Godzilla were damaged. Kong charged again, and he pushed Godzilla. Godzilla got knocked out. Kong was going towards. Godzilla stood up and he bit Kong in a hand. Kong was trying to get his hands out, and he lost one finger. It was too painful for Kong. After only 3 seconds Godzilla struck him in the neck. Kong was trying to take him out, but Godzilla was holding on his neck so strong. But Kong finally took him out, and he pushed Godzilla in the face so hard. Godzilla got knocked. After that we see Rodan which is seeing that Godzilla needs help, but Rodan is also fighting Kamazotz. Rodan attacked Kamazotz, and he knocked him on the ground. Godzilla was so damaged. Kong was about to hit him when Rodan attacked him, and he pulled Kong away. Kong was trying to catch Rodan, but Rodan was fighting him from above. Godzilla stood up, and he went towards Rodan and Kong. But then Kamazotz attacked Godzilla. Godzilla tried to catch him with his teeth, but Kamazotz was flying around, and he was starching Godzilla. Godzilla got angry, he swung his tail, and he knocked out Kamazotz, and he went towards Kong. Kong caught Rodan with Rodan's feet, and he was dropping him on the ground. Then Kong threw Rodan at Godzilla. Rodan realized what was happening when he was in the air, and he flew towards Kamazotz. Godzilla was going towards Kong. After that we see Fat Doctor who is still near the laboratory, and we see other small village near the Ivanesco building. The Fat Doctor went in, and we see a bag in which we see there is small part of Ghidorah's blood. The Fat Doctor took it and he went towards city. He should have walked the destroyed Tokyo to have got at the beach. After that we see Monarch base, where we see David which is spying at one of the Osprey helicopters. When the Osprey pilot left the helicopter, David got in the Osprey helicopter and he flew away. While he was flying he was holding the photo of Fat Doctor, and then David said in his heart, "I will kill you for what you did to my father," as it was found out the Fat Doctor poisoned his father. After that we see a shot of Godzilla and Kong fighting. Godzilla got Kong to the ground, and he bit him on a leg. Then Kong hit him in the face, and he stood up. Godzilla turned back, and he hit his tail to Kong's legs. Kong got grounded. Then Kong tried to get up, but Godzilla struck him with atomic breath. Kong got grounded again, and this time Godzilla stepped his feet on Kong's chest. Godzilla was looking so angry, then he was about to push his feet to Kong's chest when he heard the roar of Destoroyah. Godzilla looked at the laboratory, and we saw Destoroyah which was rising again, but he was grown so much. He was 2 times bigger than Godzilla and Kong. And Destoroyah roared.
The Destoroyah roar had still left small noise of Ghidorah. Godzilla heard that and he got so angry he remembered Ghidorah and he didn't stare at Destoroyah too much. He started going towards him. Kong was trying to get up but Godzilla hit him his tail and he knocked Kong. Godzilla confronted Destoroyah. Destoroyah jumped towards and they started fighting. Destoroyah was so big but Godzilla wasn't giving up. Destoroyah got Godzilla up from him and he hit his tail to Godzilla. Godzilla caught his tail with his teeth and he was hurting Destoroyah so much. Destoroyah swinged his tail and he got Godzilla up from him. Godzilla laid on the ground. Destoroyah started going towards. Godzilla struck him with atomic breath, but it didn't have much effect on Destoroyah. Destoroyah looked at Godzilla, which was standing up, but then Rodan attacked Destoroyah. As it seemed, Rodan won against Kamsitz, and Rodan starched Destoroyah's eye. Destoroyah tried to catch Rodan, but then Godzilla shot his atomic breath to Destoroyah and he hurt him so much. Destoroyah swinged his tail again and he threw Godzilla away. Rodan was fighting him, but Destoroyah caught him with his mouth and he dropped him on the ground. And he knocked him out with his tail. Then Destoroyah started going towards Godzilla. Godzilla saw him. He tried to get up, but then Destoroyah jumped towards him and he bit him in the neck. He got to the ground. Godzilla shot his atomic breath to Destoroyah's chest. But it didn't affect Destoroyah. Then Destoroyah was about to kill Godzilla when Kong jumped on him and he hit ship to Destoroyah. Destoroyah fell on the ground and Kong kept hitting him. Godzilla was standing up. Kong was hitting him with a ship when Destoroyah tried to swing his tail towards Kong. Godzilla caught Destoroyah's tail with his teeth. After 10 seconds, Rodan and Kamizatsu attacked Destoroyah. Destoroyah got out from them. And he jumped 700 meters away. He looked at Godzilla, Kong, Rodan and Kamizatsu, who were standing like a team. Destoroyah got angry and he started getting up. Godzilla, Kong, Rodan and Kamizatsu went towards Destoroyah. Godzilla struck Destoroyah with atomic breath and Kong jumped on his head. Rodan attacked to his right wing and Kamizatsu attacked left wing. They were fighting Destoroyah. Destoroyah first took Rodan and Kamizatsu, but when Godzilla stopped he hit his tail Destoroyah in the face. Cause Destoroyah was grounded. Destoroyah then got knocked out. But he got up soon. He hit his tail to Kong and he threw Kong away. Then Kamizatsu and Rodan sat on his and they were starching Destoroyah so much. Destoroyah then caught Kamizatsu and he dropped him on the ground. Rodan got on his back and he started starching him. But Destoroyah caught Rodan with his tail and he dropped him on the ground. Kong was hitting Destoroyah in the legs. Destoroyah looked at Kong. Kong jumped and he hit Destoroyah. Destoroyah got exhausted, but then he hit Kong with his feet. It hurt Kong so much, but then Godzilla attacked Destoroyah. And he bit Destoroyah in a wing. Destoroyah was trying to swing his tail when Kamizatsu attacked Destoroyah. Kamizatsu sat on one of Destoroyah's wings. Kamizatsu was eating his wing and he made a hole out of the wing. It made Destoroyah so angry. And he tried to swing his tail but was keeping it on the ground. When after 5 seconds Destoroyah got shot by atomic breath in the face. Godzilla was shooting his atomic breath. Kong was holding his tail so strong and Kamizatsu and Rodan were starching Destoroyah. Teamwork. Destoroyah was suffering, but then he took out Kong from his tail and he hit the tail to Godzilla. And he took Rodan down with his mouth. Kamizatsu tried to fly up. But Destoroyah caught his wing with his mouth and he took him down and he was holding Kamizatsu with mouth. Then Destoroyah started getting him in his mouth and he ate Kamizatsu's head and he dropped his body on the ground. Kong was getting up when he saw dead Kamizatsu. He got so angry. Destoroyah looked at him. When he got hit by atomic breath in the face, he got so damaged that he got knocked out and Godzilla was going towards him. God also started going towards him. Godzilla stepped on him. When Kong came and pushed him in the face. Then Destoroyah stuck his tail to Godzilla's dorsal fins. And threw Godzilla at Rodan. Godzilla fell on Rodan. Rodan didn't die, but it was too painful. Kong kept hitting when Destoroyah bit him in the hand and he dropped Kong on the left. Then Destoroyah got up and he pulled Kong up. And dropped Kong on the ground. Then he hit his tail to Kong and he pulled him to the ground. Then Destoroyah pulled up Kong with his hands and he dropped Kong again. Kong was so exhausted and he was trying to stand up when Destoroyah tried to hit him with his tail. Godzilla was holding his tail and he teared off a small part of his tail. Destoroyah was bleeding and he got so angry. He first hit Kong with his tail and threw Kong away. Then he looked at Godzilla with super angry face. Godzilla was about to shoot his atomic breath when Destoroyah hit his tail to Godzilla and he knocked Godzilla to the ground. Destoroyah was so angry. He was looking like a demon. Godzilla was ground when Destoroyah looked at him. Then he took him up with his hands, and he was about to bite him when he got hit in the eye by a cannon. After that we see a Argo, which has the cannon which Mark Russell was testing. It was also holding the giant axe. It completely destroyed Destoroyah's eye. Destoroyah got exhausted and he dropped Godzilla on the ground. Then Argo flew with Kong and they dropped the axe to Kong. Kong started running towards Destoroyah. And he hit axe to Destoroyah in the neck. and he jumped from there soon. He jumped near Destoroyah. Destoroyah was bleeding from his neck. Destoroyah got angry and he striked Kong. Kong looked with badass face and he hit his axe to destroy the face and Destoroyah got grounded. After that we see a fat doctor which is running in destroyed streets of Tokyo. When he was running he saw Monarch Osprey helicopter. He got scared and he turned around and he saw a supermarket. He went in a supermarket. Then Osprey landed in Tokyo. Right in front of that supermarket. Osprey said there a small dust. Then David started coming down with badass look and face. He was holding MP40 in his hands. Fat doctor saw him from inside. David started shooting at closed supermarket door. And the bullets went through the door. The bullets drilled the door. Fat doctor took cover. He was also holding a case in which was blood of Ghidorah. Fat doctor took out his pistol and he started shooting. David got cover behind a car. Fat doctor shot the car twice and he started running away. David saw him and he chased him. And he started shooting him. Fat doctor got in the basement of the supermarket. And he was waiting for David to show up. He was holding the pistol and whenever the David would come inside he'd shoot at him. But then door got slightly opened. And David shot a smoke bomb which set there complete smoke. Fat doctor was afraid first but then he started getting up slowly and he went inside the smoke when he got shot in the stomach. It hurt him so much and he fell on ground with his knees. Then smoke was slowly disappearing when we saw David which was coming out from a smoke. He was looking with so evil face. The fat doctor tried to pull up his pistol when David shot him in a hand. The fat doctor lost 3 fingers and he dropped bloody pistol to the ground. Fat doctor was in so big pain. He was looking at David like he wanted him to show mercy. Then David got called by Monarch and they told him that they were there already. David said okay with evil face. After that we see a Destoroyah which is trying to get up and Kong was looking at him with badass face. After that we see Godzilla which is charging atomic breath. But he is so weak, he looked at Kong with so badass face like he signed him something. Then Kong charged in to shoot electric pulse to Godzilla's dorsal fins. And Godzilla shot orange electricity with little atomic breath mixed. He shot his atomic pulse not breath, and it really had more effect than atomic breath. Then Kong jumped up and he cut off Destoroyah's right wing. Then got to his head and he started hitting him with his charged hand. After that we see Osprey helicopter which is arriving at Tokyo and they are getting at supermarket. They get inside and they see chained fat doctor. And they see David which is saying hello to them. Monarch soldier or G-team, it's same, said good job to him. Then they were about to take fat doctor to Osprey when David started shooting at G-team which weren't wearing big armor. And he killed them all. The far doctor looked at him and he said to David, "You were a nice boy. Now help me get up." David started helping him to get up but after 3 seconds he knocked fat doctor and he aimed his MP40 to him and he said, "No, I'm not good boy." And he shot him 1 bullet in the head. Then he took his phone and he called Alan Jonah. Alan Jonah said to him, "Okay, good job. Now I want you to bring me the case." Then David told him that he killed fat doctor. Alan Jonah told him that it was alright because he wasn't trusting the fat doctor anyway. After that we see Rudin which is getting up and he is flying towards Destoroyah. He was about to attack Destoroyah when Destoroyah got up. He swinged his tail to Godzilla and Kong and he knocked both of them to the ground. Then got to Rudin and he caught Rudin with his hands and he knocked him on the ground. And he hit Rudin his giant fat leg. Rudin didn't die but it was too painful. After that we see Destoroyah which started regeneration. He first grew his tail. Then he healed his damaged face and then he grew his wing again. After that we see USS Argo which is flying near to Destoroyah and they are shooting him. Destoroyah hit his tail to Argo and Argo slowly fell on the ground. After that we see inside the Argo which is halfway destroyed and we see Mark Russell, Sam Coleman and other soldiers which are trying to get out from there. Mark was already come out and few soldiers came out too. Then we see Sam Coleman which is stuck inside. Mark tried to help him but Destoroyah took Argo with his knife tail and he threw it at Tokyo and Argo got exploded. Then we see Godzilla and Kong who are knocked out together. Destoroyah started going towards them. When 8-headed Hydra attacked him. And he was fighting Destoroyah. Then Destoroyah tried to take him out when giant 80-metered tiger, Titanus Sekhmet, attacked him and he helped Yamato no Orochi. Then Destroy was about to swing his tail when giant brontosaurus-like titan, Mokum Beam, held his tail with his legs. After that we see giant sea creature, Titanus Leviathan, which is rising for the water and he is going towards Destroy. Then Godzilla and Kong stood up. Destroy got scared and he took them all out and he jumped away. He was so damaged. Then he looked at Godzilla and Kong. There were also standing other 4 titans. We soon got to see Titanus Methuselah, Scylla and Behemoth, which came and stood with the titans. Then Rodan flew in and he sat on Methuselah. There were 10 titans versus Destroy. And they all confronted Destroy and they attacked him at different places. And after half minute of fighting they knocked him on the ground and they were keeping him grounded. Then Kong charged again and he charged Godzilla. Godzilla shot him in the neck and he damaged Destroy so much. Then Kong came in, he took his axe and he cut off Destroy's horn. Then Destroy got out from them and he started flying up in the sky. Godzilla struck him with atomic breath and he destroyed him in an air. Then Kong started punching his chest and he started roaring. Godzilla roared too. And other titans started roaring. It was 10 titans roaring sound, which really be amazing. After that we see the titans swimming into the sea and they are leaving. We see Yamato no Orochi, which is going towards Mount Fuji with legs, cause Mount Fuji is in Japan. Then we saw Rodan, which flew away. After that Kong and Godzilla looked at each other. And they both swam at different locations of the sea. After that we see Dr. Mark Russell and Dr. Chen, which are getting back home. Madison Russell gets so happy and she is hugging them. After that we see Ankailgon spaceship, which is arriving at Bambari, Central African Republic. We see secret base there and we see a green flower and Patricia's finger, which are put in the laboratory. We soon get to see David, which is bringing a case and he is taking out small contain in which there is small part of Ghidorah's yellow blood. Then when everything was ready, Alan Jonah told scientists to have started working. Then he turned back to James Conrad and he told him, "Long live the Queen." In post-credit scenes we see Dr. Chen and Dr. Ling, which are arriving at Narsok, Greenland with Osprey helicopter. Then they get into a base which is inside the mountain, which is covered with snow. They get inside and they see new Mothra larva, which was more likely in yellow colors. Then Madison Russell started going towards Mothra larva. Then soldiers tried to stop her, but Dr. Chen said to them that it was our wraith. Then Madison got closer to Mothra larva and she touched her with her hand. In end credits scene we see Mark Russell, which is talking to Dr. Stanton, and they are walking in big corridor. There is being written Tampang, Indonesia. Mark asked him, What was the name of that creature? Dr. Stanton answered that it was Dagon. Then Mark asked him that he had heard about Mechanic Titan which they were building near the Skull Island. But then Dr. Stanton answered that the Mechanic Titan on Skull Island was only about 40 meters high. Then Mark was about to ask something when they opened the door. They got in a huge underground base. And they saw one soldier which was walking towards them. Then Dr. Stanton told the soldier to have lit up the lights. Soldier called boss of this place and they lit the lights. Then we saw giant robotic Godzilla. I mean Mecha Godzilla. Mark was so excited. And then he asked Dr. Stanton, "You could use this to help Godzilla and Kong. Why didn't you?" Then Dr. Stanton answered that this wasn't finished yet. Then he stepped few steps towards Mechanic Giant and he said, "Now it's done." The movie opens up in the jungle and the beach. There is being written Japan. 1100 BC. We see something really big stepping on the land. And we soon get that it's Muta Prime. She is walking towards something and we get to see a Godzilla-like creature Dagon. Which is roaring at Muta Prime. Muta Prime gets angry and she's attacking him. Dagon swings his tail but Muta dodges and she is attacking Dagon and she bites him in the neck. Dagon tries to take her out but Muta Prime is so strong. Dagon finally takes her out and he is pushing her away. Muta Prime is looking at him with so angry face. Dagon roared at Muta Prime. Muta didn't wait more and she attacked him and she bit him in the leg and she soon got him to the ground. Dagon was trying to get up but Muta Prime was holding him so strong and she used his special legs to put 2 eggs into Dagon's body. And then she left. Dagon was so damaged but he wasn't dead yet. He opened his eyes and he stood up slowly and he started swimming into the ocean. While 2 eggs were growing into his body which were feeding on his body. Just imagine 2 eggs feeding on you and growing in your body. Dagon was in so big pain. But he anyway swam to the Philippines. And he found the cave. He got inside and he was so close to death. Then he died and laid on the ground. While the eggs were still feeding on his dead body. That's how Dagon ended up in his final place. After that there is a title. Present day. We see 4 trucks which are going somewhere. There is being written. Banbrari, Central Africa Republic. We see an underground bunker entrance-like door. As it seems it's secret base of Apex. I decided that in Kalgon changed their name. The trucks get inside and we see Conrad coming down from one of the trucks. Alan Jonah welcomes him. And they start walking in corridor. Then they get into a giant underground base and we see giant plant flower-like thing. Bioland, which is surrounded by troops and some cranes. Then Alan Jonah asked Conrad, "Where is the blood? Looks like they needed blood of something." Then Conrad answered that they sent special team to take a blood. After that we get to see a shot of destroyed Tokyo. Then we see trucks which are riding in the streets. Then we see armored forces which are soldiers of Apex. They get out of the truck and they start hiding in ashes like they are waiting for something. Then we see 2 of these Toroyos crabs which are walking in the streets. The soldiers soon took out their special weapons which was holding the crabs on the ground. The crabs were pretty big. Around 16 feet. Then Apex brought blood containers and they killed crabs to have taken the blood. They took the blood and they made both crabs empty from blood. And they took blood away. After that we see Madison Russell which is preparing her suitcase to go to Hong Kong. Then we see Dr. Chen which coming out from her room with suitcase. Dr. Chen and Madison Russell are going to Hong Kong. Then they get outside the house and we see Mark Russell with brand new Jeep. They get inside the Jeep and they are going to airport. Soon they farewell each other and Madison and Chen are getting in the airplane and they are leaving. Then Mark Russell calls someone and he is saying that he is coming. Then we see endurance of some underground base of Monarch. We see Mark Russell which is sitting in a military Jeep and they are getting him inside the base. After he walks a corridor he sees. Finished. And badass human-made giant. Mecha Godzilla, the Mechanic Titan which was built on the bones of Dagon. Mark Russell was excited and then Charles Kraus, the head of the secret base, told Mark that they should have taken it to Tokyo. Then Mark Russell told him that how they were going to do this. Then Charles answered that aircraft carrier was coming. After that we see helicopter which is going to Narsok, Greenland. We soon get to see Monarch members which are coming out from the base. And we see Mothra larva. She is getting out of the mountain and she is climbing on the top of the mountain. She soon starts to grow up and she unleashes her wings. From the far we see Mothra twins Dr. Chen and Ling, which are singing Mothra song. Mothra grows on her full size. And she starts flying up. After that we see Apex Base and Bambari. We see them evacuating the base because the flower of Biolant is starting to break out. They get out soon and they start getting into the vehicles and they're leaving. We soon see Biolant which is breaking out from underground base and she starts going towards the Amazon jungle. Long walk, right? After that we see the helicopter which is flying somewhere and we soon get to see Skull Island. We see small base of Mechagodzilla on Skull Island. They're humans just sitting in the controlling center and in front of them is small Mechagodzilla, 132 feet. People there didn't have much work to do. Some of them were scrolling through their phones, some of them were sleeping. Soon they are being attacked by Apex. And they kill everyone there. Then we see Nancy Conrad, Jacob Thomas and David Denver from previous scenario. Then they stand in front of small Mechagodzilla. Then David asked, "Okay. Now what?" Then Nancy answered that the big Mechagodzilla which they needed was on aircraft carrier and the aircraft carrier was surrounded with so good battleships for safety. But this 40-meter giant is not to break through them. Then David was about to ask something when Jacob told him, "We use small ones to get big one." Then David got everything and they started launching small Mechagodzilla. Then another small Mechagodzilla also got launched, as it seems Apex attacked second base too. Then we see aircraft carrier which is transporting big Mechagodzilla. And it's surrounded by two battleships. Soon one of the battleships gets attacked by their rockets and we see two small Mechagodzillas which are swimming towards the aircraft carrier. Monarch started preparing their cannons. And they tried to turn them off but Apex turned off every type of control from Monarch. Small Mechagodzillas attacked battleships and they started destroying everything. They soon sunk both of the battleships. Then Apex arrived on aircraft carrier with helicopter and they killed some people there. Then when almost every Monarch member was dead, Alan Jonah came down from helicopter. David also followed him and Alan Jonah told him, "Okay, here is our Mechagodzilla." Then David looked at Mechagodzilla, big Mechagodzilla, and he said, "Okay, now let me get in." He soon got in and they turned big Mechagodzilla. They dropped small Mechagodzillas and big Mechagodzilla destroyed small ones. Then Mechagodzilla roared and he swam to the ocean. After that we see Dr. Chen and Madison which are arriving from Greenland to Hong Kong with private jet. And they are going to hotel with jeep. They soon get into the 5-star hotel room and they start resting. After that we see Biolant which is swimming towards another beach. She soon gets to Amazon jungle. And she is walking on the jungle. She soon finds her place to rest and she is resting. Then she starts digging the ground and she buries herself in the ground. Later we see Godzilla swimming towards Amazon jungle but he is around 500 kilometers away. And before he arrives there Biolant will be fully fed. After that we see Apex Base where Alan Jonah is talking to Conrad. Alan Jonah says that they should start destroying one city to cause Godzilla go there and they will kill him using Mechagodzilla. Then Conrad said that it was good idea. And then Nancy asked, "Okay, at which city are we going?" Then Alan Jonah answered, "Hong Kong." After we see Godzilla which is swimming towards the beach. He soon rises and he walks on the beach of the land. He is looking around and we see Biolant which is grown on full size and she is rising. Godzilla gets angry and he is about to attack when Rodan sitting next to Godzilla. We soon get to see Mothra coming out from the clouds and she is joining the fight. Biolant couldn't wait anymore. She roared so loud and she pulled up her foreheads and he started choking Godzilla. Then Rodan attacked Biolant and she started starching her face. Then Mothra plugged her legs into Biolant's body. Violent got hurt and she took her legs out of Godzilla's legs and she swinged them to Rodan and she soon got Rodan to the ground. But then Mothra struck her in the face. Violent got so angry but then Godzilla struck her with atomic breath. Violent tried to swing one of her heads but Godzilla caught it and he ate it off her. Violent swinged another head to Godzilla and it bit Godzilla in the neck. Then Rodan and Mothra attacked Violent and they started fighting her. Then we see Osprey landing far from them and we see Dr. Mark Russell, Dr. Stanton and G-Team, which are watching from far away. Godzilla was trying to attack Violent but Violent soon got him to the ground and she soon dropped Rodan to the ground. Then Violent was going towards Godzilla when Mothra struck her in eyes and she made Violent blind. Violent got exhausted and she soon got knocked to the ground. Then Godzilla caught his mouth with his hands. Violent was trying to fight but she was so weak. And Godzilla struck to Violent with atomic breath right in the mouth. Then we see Dr. Stanton which is saying, "Long live the king." After that we see Apex Space. We see Alan Jonah which is angry that Violent is dead, but then Conrad said that there were other hopes too. But then Nancy Jacob asked, after Godzilla fought Violent which was nearly 2 times bigger than him, how can we hope that he doesn't beat Mechagodzilla which is bigger with 30 meters only? Then Nancy agreed to Jacob and she said that only one creature wasn't enough, but then Conrad and Alan left and then Alan Jonah said, "Who said that there is only one?" Then Nancy laughed and she asked, "Do you seriously think that 40-metered mechas would be useful?" Then Alan Jonah answered, "No, but I've not mentioned 40-metered mechas." Then Jacob asked, "Okay, then what's second hope?" Alan Jonah answered, "King Ghidorah." Then Jacob and Nancy laughed again. Then Jacob told him, "Seriously, Ghidorah's dead over the year and his head is empty from blood and it started to get skeletoned." Then Alan Jonah answered, "What do you think? What did we bring the blood of JM07's crabs? And why do we keep Kong's finger?" Jacob answered, "Probably. You want to sell them?" Then Alan answered, "No. I want to mix their blood into one place which is Ghidorah's head." Then Jacob asked him how he'd do that. Then Conrad, "We should take his head on the top of the mountain and then hit some electricity after we take bloods in his head. And he will get slowly revived." Then Jacob told him that it wasn't that easy. But then Patricia said that it was good idea. After that we see Godzilla which is going from Amazon jungle and he is swimming in the ocean. There are Mothra and Rodan which are following him. But they fly above Godzilla. After that we see Mechagodzilla which is walking in the sea and it's going towards Hong Kong. After that we see Hong Kong and we see Madison Russell which is on pretty good mood. She is playing Fortnite on her PS4, when she hears the roar of robotic Godzilla. She looked from the glass wall and she saw Mechanic Godzilla which was shooting rockets at the city. She got scared and then Dr. Chen and Madison went out from a hotel. Soon hotel got shot by rockets and it got halfway destroyed. Then we see Dr. Chen and Madison running away but Mechagodzilla steps in front of them. Then Mechagodzilla looks at Madison and Chen. Then it's about to hit them the foot when it heard the roar of Godzilla. Mechagodzilla looked at the beach and it saw Godzilla which was walking towards Mech. Then Godzilla roared and we saw Mothra and Rodan entering the city. Mothra sat on Godzilla's dorsal fins. And Rodan sat on one of the buildings and he roared. I really wanted Rodan to do this amazing thing from old movies again. And then Godzilla went towards Mechagodzilla.
After that we see Alan Jonah which is arriving somewhere with helicopter, and we soon get that he is on the top of the mountain, and we get to see King Ghidorah's head which is put in front of him. And we see few troops of Apex which are surrounding King Ghidorah's head. The head is also surrounded with some type of cannons that shoot electricity. Then Conrad is coming with Alan Jonah and he tells him okay, it's about to start and we better not be too close. Then everyone is getting into helicopters and they are flying far with 600 meters and they watch reviving process. Then cannons start to hit electricity to Ghidorah's head. Apex mixed stories. Kong's and Violent's blood to have made Ghidorah even stronger. Then head is being hit by too much electricity and it opened the eyes. The head was zombie-like but it regenerated soon. Then Ghidorah's neck started to grow in size. It got full-sized neck. At first he was like Manda, but then body started to grow out of it and it soon got legs. Then its wings grew up and soon another 2 heads were grown. Ghidorah was already fully grown, and it was a perfect organism. He stood up and thunder hit right behind of him. Then we see a Langiolo which is watching from helicopter, and he says if the queen can't kill the king, the false king will. Then they fly away, and disappear in the dust. We see Ghidorah realizing that he is now able to fight. He is roaring with sound of happiness, and he flies up. After that we see Hong Kong where Godzilla and Mechagodzilla are fighting. Godzilla tries to bite Mechagodzilla in the neck, but Mechagodzilla dodges, and he hits Godzilla. After that we see Rodan attacking Mechagodzilla, but Mechagodzilla soon dodges and Rodan falls on the ground. Then Mothra attacks Mechagodzilla and she plugs her legs into Mechagodzilla, but Mechagodzilla soon takes her out and it's thrown her at one of the building, and it knocks her out. Then Mechagodzilla looks back at Godzilla and it sees that Godzilla's dorsal fins are blue. Mechagodzilla was about to roar when Godzilla striked it with atomic breath. Mechagodzilla got so damaged and it knocked to the ground. Then Godzilla went towards it. Mechagodzilla soon stood up and it hit Godzilla in the face. Godzilla strike back, and he bit it in the neck, and he started dragging it. Soon he crashed Mechagodzilla to one of the buildings, and whole building fell on Mechagodzilla. Then we airplane flying in the sky, and we see soldiers which are doing halo jump to rescue survivors. Soon they arrive at the city, and they start searching survivors, but soon 4 of them is being crushed by Mechagodzilla's leg. And we get back to Godzilla and Mechagodzilla fighting. Godzilla was biting Mechagodzilla. Mechagodzilla was punching. The battle was going super crazy. Mechagodzilla hit its tail at Godzilla, but Godzilla caught the tail. Mechagodzilla soon hit him hands, and it's knocking him to the ground, and Godzilla falls right in front of Madison and Chen. Then Mechagodzilla was about to hit him again when Rodan attacked it. Mechagodzilla started fighting Rodan, and we get back to fallen Godzilla drive. Chen was telling Madison Russell touched Godzilla with her hand, and she started talking to Godzilla that he should have risen. Godzilla opened his eyes. Madison told him that world needed him, and he should have risen and killed Mechagodzilla. Then we hear Mechagodzilla and Rodan fighting sounds, and we get to Mechagodzilla which is knocking Rodan to the ground, and it's heading towards Godzilla. Godzilla still doesn't get up, and we see soldiers which came down to save them. Then Dr. Chen and Madison are leaving the place where Godzilla is laying, and we see Mechagodzilla which is unlocking his knifed hands, and it was about to kill Godzilla when King Ghidorah attacked Mechagodzilla, and King Ghidorah was tearing it apart. Then Ghidorah took Mechagodzilla in the air, and he dropped it to the ground. Mechagodzilla was so damaged when King Ghidorah shot his gravity beams to it, and he completely destroyed Mechagodzilla. Then King Ghidorah hears some noises. He looks at the right, and he sees Godzilla which is standing up.
Ghidorah looks at Godzilla with so angry face. Godzilla first thought that Ghidorah was helping him, but then he realized that they were ultimate rivals, and he roared at King Ghidorah. King Ghidorah roared too, but then Rodan flew in to throw a part of building to Ghidorah. Then Mothra flew in and she starched Ghidorah's wings and she sat on Godzilla. So you got what you wanted. Godzilla, Mothra and Rodan versus King Ghidorah without humans. Ghidorah gets angry and he flies up and attacks Godzilla. Godzilla catches him through his neck and he is dropping him to the ground. Soon Rodan attacks Ghidorah and he starts biting him in the neck. But Ghidorah soon stands up and he takes Rodan out. But then Godzilla attacks him and he bites him in the neck. Ghidorah bites Godzilla with 2 other heads, but then Ghidorah flies up a bit and he drops Godzilla to the back. Godzilla tries to get up and Ghidorah hits him his tail and he is knocking him out. Then we see Mothra which is flying towards Ghidorah. Ghidorah is charging his gravity beams to shoot Mothra when Rodan flies in front of Mothra and Rodan gets hit instead of Mothra and Rodan falls. Mothra realizes that and she attacks Ghidorah and she plunges her legs into Ghidorah's body. Then Godzilla gets up and he is knocking Ghidorah to the ground. Mothra is stick to Ghidorah and she is drinking his blood. Then Godzilla steps his foot on Ghidorah's body and Mothra gets Ghidorah off and she is sighting on Ghidorah's center head and she is starching him. Then Godzilla takes Ghidorah through his tail and he is throwing Ghidorah at one of the buildings and he is knocking Ghidorah out. Ghidorah seemed way more weaker than his previous version. Then Godzilla started going towards Ghidorah when Ghidorah rose and he attacked Godzilla. But then Mothra attacked his right head and Rodan attacked left head, while Godzilla attacked middle head, and they made teamwork just like 1964. Ghidorah was trying to escape but they were holding him so strong. But King Ghidorah finally escapes and he is catching Mothra with his heads and he is tearing her apart. Then he is throwing her at Godzilla. Godzilla dodges and he is going towards Ghidorah. Ghidorah flies up but Godzilla hits him his tail and Ghidorah gets so damaged. But Ghidorah soon recovers and he is attacking Godzilla with his 3 heads. Godzilla catches one of his heads and he is dropping Ghidorah to the ground. And then he steps on his back and he is charging his atomic breath and he is shooting Ghidorah in the neck and his left head is being cut off. Then Rodan and Mothra are taking left head in the air and they are tearing it apart. Mothra is starching it while Rodan is eating it. Then two-headed Ghidorah tries to escape but Godzilla holds him so strong. Then Godzilla is biting Ghidorah in right head and he is tearing this head from him and Ghidorah has left one head and then Godzilla is attacking Ghidorah in the wings and he is tearing the wings apart. Ghidorah was so weak when Godzilla stepped on him. And he roared for the victory. Then he looked back at Ghidorah and he crushed his head with his legs. Godzilla has won once again against Ghidorah. Then we see Mothra and Rodan sitting in front of Godzilla. Godzilla was so damaged and tired because he fought 3 monsters. And each of them did so big damage and Godzilla started swimming in the ocean. He soon swam into the ocean and he soon disappears in the ocean. Then we see Mothra and Rodan flying away. After that we see Mark Russell which is so worried and he is waiting for Jet of Monarch which is bringing survivors. Then he meets Dr. Chen and Madison and they hug each other. Then we see Godzilla which is swimming underwater, and he is swimming in some type of cave, as it seems Godzilla found his new house. In end credits scene we see ocean and we soon get to the beach and we see Kong which is roaring. The movie opens up in 1973 on Skull Island. We see Jack Chapman which is trying to catch signal with other soldiers which are trapped on Skull Island. Then he decides to rest and he sits on the tree which is grounded, but then this tree starts standing up and we get that it's not a tree, it's Spore Mantis. Jack Chapman takes his weapon and he starts shooting at Sporomantis. Sporomantis soon sees something else and it's going away. Jack Chapman first thought that it was scared of him, but then he looked at the forest and he saw a skull crawler which soon ate him. After that we see 48 years later. We see farm and we soon get to see house. We see field and we soon see Bill Chapman, which is pretty old, and he is riding horse. He is just having fun. Then he gets down from a horse and he is getting in the house and we see his shelves, we see his toy soldiers and animals, and we get to see picture of Jack Chapman. Then Bill is sitting and he decides to watch TV. He turns on TV and television shows some gorillas at zoo. Then Bill remembers something and he is getting angry. He remember KONG, and that's when he hears some noise of jeeps from outside. He stands up and he is opening the door of his house. And we see 3 black jeeps which are parking in his garden, and we see some men in black suits which are coming out from a car. Bill didn't seem excited because he already knew them, and he invited them inside. Then they sat around the table and they were discussing how they should have entered to the Skull Island, but then one of them says that Skull Island has a hollow earth under it and they could use it, but then another man said that there were some really scary monsters underground. And then Bill Chapman said with a bit smiley face, "We can make it as our advantage." After that we see Skull Island, which is now in peace. We see KONG's axe which is dropped on the ground. We see wildlife which are living okay. Then we see giant buffaloes which are now around 95 feet, yeah. They have grown. Then we see Holy Tiger which is walking in the jungles and he is about to catch a deer when something steps near them and deer escapes. Then we see KONG which is coming. Tiger gets scared and he is running away. We see KONG which is pretty good now. And then we see Osprey which is flying above him. But KONG doesn't really care, as it seems ospreys are flying often on Skull Island and this already familiar to KONG. Then we that KONG is going to a lake and he drinks some water. After that we see Bill Chapman which is sitting in the helicopter. Bill was quite rich and him and this boys had a small organization which was called the Rala. Then they get into sector underground base and we see his soldiers. Then they meet in the meeting center and they were telling Bill that when KONG dropped the helicopters, he killed their family members. As it seems almost all of them had a contact or touch with killed troops, but Bill already knew that. He was interested about the plan. Then one of the women said that Monarch was going to explore Hollow Earth where they were hearing crazy sounds from. But unfortunately they didn't have enough technology to search a signal. But if they'd follow Monarch they would find the place where signal was coming from and they would release skull crawlers and something even bigger that'd set island on fire. Then Bill laughed and he said, "Then let's begin." After that we see one of the outposts on Skull Island where the small mecha Godzilla was stolen from. We see detectives and police there. Then we Osprey landing there and we see Dr. Houston Brooks and new member of Monarch, Mr. George Potts. They get in the base where all searching stuff is going on. Then George said, "Already a few months passed and they still didn't finish this job?" Then Brooks told him, "Calm down. Those people who died there had families. And they really wouldn't like to hear that." Then George got quiet and then Brooks went inside base. Then George decided to follow him inside the base, but he felt that something really heavy was coming from behind. He looked behind and we saw KONG which was staring at the base. George got excited. He immediately took his phone out and took picture of KONG. Then KONG started walking towards the base and he looked inside the opened hole on the top of small mecha Godzilla's base. But then he just walked next to it and he went to sleep on Skull Island. After that we see underground base of the Rala which is preparing some underground and underwater tank. Then we see soldiers of the Rala. They mostly looked like troops of Black Hand from Just Cause 4, and there were 8 troops and 9th was Bill himself which was following them. He got dressed in black soldier suits and he got inside the tank and they launched the tank on the ground. After riding for nearly 20 minutes, the tank swam into the ocean and it got submerged. Then we see George which is walking on the outpost of Skull Island where 2 small mecha Godzilla was lost, but instead of another mech, there was some hollow earth vehicle which was called the HEV. Then George got closer to vehicle and he said, "Wow. That's nice." Monarch was sending 20 troops to the hollow earth to have found out where the signal was coming from. Then George looked at troops and they weren't wearing any big armor. Then George said, "Wait. They aren't gonna wear any armor?" Then Dr. Brooks asked him, "Why do they need it?" George said, "For Evregas." But then Brooks told him that nothing was going to happen to them. But then George said, "Okay, it's on you." with little angry face, and he went out from the outpost. Only about 10 seconds later Monarch started taking Hev in the air with ospreys, where they attached the Hev and they pulled it in the air. They took it to the ocean and they soon dropped the Hev in the ocean. Then troops which were inside said, "Okay, let's go." And they went into giant underwater tunnel. They swam and they soon found air pocket and they got into giant underground tunnel. Then they started getting out from the Hev and continued walking with feet. Then we see Monarch's base where they are spectating troops on monitors. Then Brooks tells them with Makitaki, "Okay, let's get deeper now." And they continue walking in the tunnel. After walking for 15 minutes, one of the soldiers said that he was bored. And he decided to have a little drink. Then everyone agreed with him and only Boss was standing. Then Boss told them, "Come on, you lazy dogs. We have a job here." Then one of the troops said that resting is always necessary. Then Boss was about to say something when something exploded behind him. We soon saw underground tank of the Rala which came up from the ground. And it started shooting mounted guns at soldiers. Then we see Monarch base where they see that soldiers are dying and everyone is so nervous. Then we see Bill Chapman's army which coming out from a tank. We soon get to see Bill with his uniform which is taking out his katana. Then we see Boss of Monarch which is standing up and he is pulling his hands up. Then Monarch Boss asks them, "Who are you? What do you want?" Then it was silence for 5 seconds and then Bill Chapman said, "Chaos." And he cut off Boss's throat with katana. Then other Monarch troops were about to take out their pistols when the Rala troops pulled them. Then Bill sees the giant rock putting the underground, but it more looks like a wall. Then they shoot this wall with tank and wall gets destroyed and we see giant underground village. Then we see so many skull crawlers, around 75, and we see some gate which is leading to dark place. But then we see giant snake which is coming out from there. She was called the Nazuki. Then tank shot at the upside a few times and whole ground from the upper island fell on Nazuki. Then they got into the tank and they left the place. Then we see skull crawlers which are climbing up and they get back to Skull Island. But they are still so small. They are almost like caddies for Kong. Then they get on the ground and they start attacking wildlife. We soon Monarch base which is also being attacked by skull crawlers. We see George and Dr. Brooks which are running towards helicopter. Then we see another fatman which is running towards the helicopter but he gets caught by tongue of skull crawler and he gets eaten. Then we see another woman which is falling on the ground. Then she is about to stand up when she gets eaten by skull crawler. Then George and Houston finally get in a helicopter and they are lifting off. Then we see skull crawlers which are running on Skull Island but then Kong steps on few of them and he is roaring. Then skull crawlers try to attack but they are too small. Then we see Nazuki which is rising from the hole. And Kong roars at her. We see helicopters of Monarch which are going to check what happened to dead troops and to arrest evil guys of the Rallo. But then the tank of the Rallo rises from the ground and it shoots helicopters and it soon drops all the helicopters on Skull Island. Then tank turns to the ocean and it disappears in the ocean. Then we see Nazuki which is roaring so loud like it's trying to wake something up. Kong gets angry and Nazuki starts going towards Kong. Kong tries to hit her but Nazuki soon got on the neck of Kong and it started choking. Kong tried to take her off but Nazuki was holding so strong. Then Kong started choking Nazuki with hands and Nazuki was holding less powerful. Then Kong took Nazuki out and he held her like a baseball bat. And he hit her on the rock and it hurt Nazuki so much. Then Kong threw Nazuki away. Nazuki was feeling so exhausted when Kong started going towards her. Nazuki soon realized everything and he got to right. Kong tried to hit her but Nazuki bit him in the neck and when Kong took her out he realized that Nazuki left some scars on him. Nazuki soon bit him in the hand and Kong got so angry. He caught Nazuki through Nazuki's mouth and he tried to break her jaws. Nazuki bit him in the fingers and it was too painful for Kong. Then Nazuki tried to go away but Kong caught her through her tail and he dropped it on the ground and Nazuki got so exhausted. Then Kong took her again and he threw it at one of the mountains and Nazuki got so damaged. But Nazuki found another hole to the hollow earth and she started climbing inside. Only her tail was left when Kong caught her through her tail and he pulled Nazuki from the ground. Then Nazuki flipped herself and she bit Kong in a face. Kong got so damaged on the face, and he roared so loud. Then Nazuki got on Kong's neck again and she started choking him. Then we see Monarch soldiers which are discussing to launch small mecha Godzilla, but then they said that they would just waste them. And they should just let them fight. Then we see Kong, which is trying to take Nazuki. But Nazuki bites him in the neck and Kong seems less powerful. Nazuki keeps being on Kong's neck. Kong started losing his mind and he fell on the ground. Then Nazuki got off Kong and she started roaring when Kong caught her through her mouth and he dropped her on the ground so painfully. Then Nazuki was feeling so exhausted when Kong took her through her tail and he threw her away. Nazuki fell on ground, but after 5 seconds she started moving. But then Kong jumped on him and he crushed his center stomach. It made Nazuki cut in half, and Nazuki started bleeding. Then Kong looked at half Nazuki, which was trying to escape. Kong laughed a bit and he crushed the head of Nazuki with his feet. Then Kong felt tired and decided to have little nap, and he fell in the lake. He didn't verb in water cause he was so big. Then we see Monarch outposts on Skull Island where they are discussing about Nazuki. Then we see helicopter goes into hole which let Nazuki rise on Skull Island and the helicopter lands there. Skull crawlers disappeared for some reason, so Monarch started exploring underground village. Then one of the explorers decided to walk it left. And he stepped on skull of something. Then he started digging round and he found skull of Tyrannosaurus Rex. Then they called another helicopter and they took the skull in laboratory. Then they started going deeper and they discovered more paintings of Kongs fighting skull crawlers, as it seems there were around 8 Kongs on the island before. Then everyone got excited and they started taking pictures. Then we see Osprey, which is landing on Skull Island. Then we see George and Brooks, which are coming down from Osprey, and they met other members in a meeting center. Then we see monitors from which they are spectating Explorer. Then George said that it was cool that they found new location, but then Brooks answered, "Yeah. At cost of 20 lives." After that we see the Rollos base where they are so angry that there was nothing useful in their behavior and in the hollow earth. Then Bill came in and he said, "Don't worry. We will figure something out to kill this giant ape." Then one of the men said that this giant ape killed giant snake and over 60 skull crawlers. Then we see George, which is arriving on Skull Island with Osprey helicopter. We soon get to see Dr. Brooks arriving with him. Then they get into outpost of Skull Island and we see Monarch team, which are spectating Monarch explorers, which are flying into giant underground village which has just been discovered. They weren't afraid because all the skull crawlers were run away or disappeared. Then we see one of the explorers which is walking there and he sees some writings on the walls, but the dust doesn't let him see it completely, so he erases some dust with his hand, and he saw something fantastic. He saw around 8 Kong species fighting skull crawlers and giant Tyrannosaurus-like dinosaurs is preparing to fight them all, and this was painted on a wall. Explorer called the helicopter and they took this part of wall to the base. Then we see George, which is walking to the base where they called him from, and he gets into room where giant piece of wall is placed and scientists are exploring it. Then Brooks came with him and he told him, "We just found out that there had been giant Tyrannosaurus on this island in past." Then George answered, "But now he is dead." Then Brooks asked him, "How can you be sure?" And Brooks continued talking. He had been scariest thing on island. It was even forbidden for people to write about him. But then one of the ancient people decided to write it anyway. And the piece which we found was in some kind of a secret basement. Then George said calmly, "We have no proof that this thing has ever existed or if it's alive. So just move on, old man." Then Brooks told him that Monarch had noticed another activites in underground just 10 minutes. Then George told him, "Is it another skull crawler?" Brooks told him, "No. It's caused by something really large." Then alarms turn on and the military helicopters go towards the beach. Then Brooks asked, "What's happening?" Then one of the scientists told him that they noticed huge seismic activities coming from the beach. And it might be something really huge. Then Brooks told George to have left the island, but George answered that he wasn't going to miss this. Then we see 4 military helicopters which are flying to the beach, and we see something rising, giant Tyrannosaurus-like dinosaur which was around 85 meters, and he was green. He was called Gorosaurus. He rose and he started walking on Skull Island, and then he roared and soon Kong roared back. Then Gorosaurus looked at Kong, which was staring at him with so angry face. Gorosaurus went towards him. Kong also started going towards him. Helicopters got away to not get smashed by monsters. Gorosaurus was walking towards Kong when Kong jumped up and hit him in the face. Gorosaurus felt exhausted and he fell on the ground. Kong took him through his tail and he threw Gorosaurus away, and Gorosaurus crashed to mountain and he fell really painfully. Then Kong started going towards him. Gorosaurus stood up and he bit him in the neck. Kong roared so angrily and he started hitting him, but this didn't have much effect on Gorosaurus. Then Kong hit Gorosaurus in the neck really hard that it made him to get off Kong, but Gorosaurus soon turned around and he hit his tail to feet and he knocked Kong on the ground. Then he stood on Kong's chest. But then Kong woke up and he dropped Gorosaurus on the ground. Gorosaurus was trying to get up but Kong caught his head and he hit him in the head, and Gorosaurus got knocked out. Kong decided to walk away but Gorosaurus bit him in the leg and it hurt Kong so much. Then Kong tried to hit him another leg but Gorosaurus stood up and he bit him in the neck. Kong was trying to take him out but Gorosaurus held so strong. Then Kong tried to hit him in the neck, but Gorosaurus dodged and he jumped on Kong. Kong tried to hit him again but Gorosaurus jumped behind and he attacked Kong in the hand. Then Kong got angry and he pulled Gorosaurus in the air and he dropped him on the ground. Then Kong hit Gorosaurus in the face and he took him through his tail, and he threw him away. Gorosaurus flew away and he fell on the ground really hard. But he stood up and roared so angrily at Kong. Kong roared back and Kong went towards him. Gorosaurus dodged and Kong crashed to mountain. After 2 seconds Gorosaurus attacked him in the leg and he dropped Kong on the ground. Then Gorosaurus stood on him and started plugging the sharp toes into Kong's chest. Kong was in so big pain but he couldn't stand up. Then Gorosaurus at the sky and he roared like he was the king of Skull Island. When he saw some lighting on Kong's hand, some part of the power of King Ghidorah was still left in Kong, and he caught Gorosaurus' feet and he took him out. Gorosaurus stood up and he looked excited. Kong wasn't lighting much, he only had little power left. He went towards Gorosaurus and he hit him so strong that Gorosaurus got knocked out. Then Kong took him through his tail and he threw him at the beach. Gorosaurus was slowly standing up when Kong was going towards him. Then Kong was about to hit him again when he heard something from behind. He looked behind and he saw a second Gorosaurus which climbed up from the underground. Kong got so angry, he roared at him. Gorosaurus roared back. Then Kong got bitten by first Gorosaurus in the leg. Then 2 Gorosaurus attacked Kong and Kong had to fight 1 versus 2, but he wasn't giving up. He threw one away and he attacked 2 and he started hitting him in the face. Then he caught Gorosaurus through his mouth and he tried to break his jaw. Gorosaurus took him out and he threw Kong away. Kong fell on ground but he soon stood up. But second Gorosaurus attacked him from behind and 1 Gorosaurus attacked him too. And they were both biting in hands. Kong got angry and he first took out 1 Gorosaurus. Then he jumped on second one's back and he started punching him. Gorosaurus soon fell on the ground cause of Kong's mass, but second Gorosaurus bit him in the neck and he dropped Kong on the ground and he roared at Kong. Kong stood up and he roared so loudly. Then we see George and Brooks which are sitting in a helicopter which is recording the battle and they are watching the battle from far away. Then George took out his phone and he started recording the battle too. Then Brooks told him that they already were recording the battle, but then George answered that he post this on his Instagram story. Then we get back to 2 Gorosaurus and Kong fighting. Kong hits Gorosaurus in the face but second one bites him in the neck and soon first one bites him in the neck. Kong takes out first one and he attacks another one. Gorosaurus are tired but they continue to fight. Kong runs forward and he catches one of them through tail and he has thrown it to second one. 2 Gorosaurus soon stands up and he is roaring at Kong. Kong roars back and he runs towards him. Gorosaurus hits his tail to Kong but this doesn't have much effect on Kong. He just shaked a bit and then he hit Gorosaurus in the face. Gorosaurus was about to fall on ground when Kong caught his face and he kept hitting him. Gorosaurus was losing his power when Kong dropped him on the ground and he started breaking his jaw. Gorosaurus was trying to resist Kong but he was so weak. And Kong finally broke his jaw. And he roared. Then we see only Gorosaurus which standing up. He looks at his dead brother and he gets very angry. He roars at Kong and Kong looks at him with badass face. Gorosaurus gets little scared but angriness soon takes over fear and Gorosaurus started running towards Kong. Kong also started running towards him and they clashed really hard. Gorosaurus was biting Kong. Kong was hitting him and Gorosaurus starched his chest. The battle was going super crazy. Gorosaurus wasn't giving up and neither was Kong. They were fighting really hard but then Kong felt that he was getting bit tired. But Gorosaurus kept fighting like beast. Kong took him out and he hit him in the face. Gorosaurus felt little exhausted, but then he realized everything and he bit Kong in the neck. Kong took him out, but Gorosaurus hit his tail to Kong in the face and Kong fell on the ground. Gorosaurus was roaring at him like he was challenging him. Kong was so tired and damaged that he couldn't get up. Gorosaurus stood on him and he started roaring so loudly. Kong was knocked out on the ground and he got some memories. He remembered his natives and parents. He remembered the day and the pain which he experienced when he lost his parents. He woke up and Gorosaurus was still standing on him. He started standing up with so angry face and he threw Gorosaurus away. Gorosaurus fell on the ground with so excited face. Kong stood up with so angry and he pushed Gorosaurus in the face. Gorosaurus got knocked out and Kong took him through his tail and he threw him away. Gorosaurus fell on the beach and he was so damaged. Kong was so angry at him and he went towards. Gorosaurus hasn't also forgotten his dead brother and he stood up shakily. Kong was running towards and soon Gorosaurus also started going towards him. Kong jumped up to hit Gorosaurus when Gorosaurus dodged and Kong jumped on the ground. Then Gorosaurus got onto Kong's neck and he started biting him. Kong soon took him out and he dropped him on the ground. Gorosaurus stood up and he struck Kong in the leg. Kong tried to take him out but Gorosaurus held on his leg so strong. Then Kong started punching him in the face and Gorosaurus got off him. Then Kong took Gorosaurus through his tail and he threw him to the beach. Then he went towards him. Then he got there and Gorosaurus wasn't there. Kong got little scared and he got attacked from behind. Gorosaurus bit him right in the face and he got to Kong's neck. Kong was trying to take him out but Gorosaurus was so angry and strong. But Kong somehow took him out and he dropped him on the ground. Gorosaurus went towards him like he was attacking him, but then he just jumped over Kong and he swam in the ocean, and he disappeared in the ocean. Kong tried to chase him but he was so weak and he also felt tired. Then he started losing his mind. And he fell on the ground. Then we see helicopter which is flying to Skull Island. Then we see few monarch troops and George which are already on Skull Island. George asked one of the troops where Gorosaurus was gone. But troop answered he didn't know, but then they got called by monarch and they said that Gorosaurus was headed to north and west, towards Shanghai. George got worried and then he said he shouldn't reach the city. Then we see Kong which is waking up and George is standing so close to him. Kong knows where Gorosaurus went and he is very angry. He stands up shakily and he starts going towards the beach to chase to Gorosaurus. But then he stops and he looks at something. He looks at his axe which is put on the mountain, and he laughs. Then we see 12 military helicopters which are flying above the sea and we soon get to see Gorosaurus which is swimming in the sea and he is approaching Shanghai. Then we get back to Kong on Skull Island which is taking his axe. And he starts swimming in the ocean.
After that we see Shanghai which is being evacuated by Monarch and police department. They are using buses, helicopters and even usual cars which are leaving city. Then we see beach where the helicopters are picking people to take them to the safe places. Then we see aircraft carrier about 2 kilometers away from the beach. We see soldiers running on aircraft carrier and just minding their jobs. But then one of the soldiers sees something in the sea. He stands at the border of the aircraft carrier to have a better look. And he sees back of Gorosaurus which is swimming towards aircraft carrier. Soldiers get scared and he calls another soldiers to look at Gorosaurus. Then soldiers get scared and they call with their walkie-talkies and they say that situation has got much worse and they should hurry up. After that we see Gorosaurus which is about to crash aircraft carrier, but then he just drowns himself and he swims under the aircraft carrier and he heads toward Shanghai which still hasn't finished evacuation. Then soldiers on aircraft carrier call the attack helicopters and they say that target is going to be in Shanghai in less than a minute. Then we see military helicopters which are flying up from the aircraft. After that we see beautiful shot of top view of helicopter which is flying above the sea and we see another 31 helicopters with it and they are chasing Gorosaurus. Then helicopters started dropping rockets at Gorosaurus which was halfway in the sea. Gorosaurus drawn a little bit and bombs exploded on the sea and it didn't have any serious effect on Gorosaurus. Then helicopters started speeding up and they started shooting mounted guns at Gorosaurus. They knew that it did not have any effect, but they had to do something. Then we see that Gorosaurus is causing a little flooding, tsunami in city around 15 feet high, and the water gets into the city, and the flooding took the 2 buses which were trying to leave the city. Then we see Gorosaurus rising from the water and he is roaring. Then we see soldiers which are shooting RPGs from the roof, but Gorosaurus doesn't really care. He takes a look of the city which is pretty big and he starts running towards another end of Shanghai. We see fighter jet which joins the fight and it starts shooting at Gorosaurus. Gorosaurus tries to catch it with mouth but Jet escapes, then Jet starts flying towards him again. Gorosaurus swings his tail and he hits Jet. Jet crashes to building and it gets destroyed. Gorosaurus feels satisfied and he continues running. Then Gorosaurus sees airport and he runs towards it. Then we see George, which is sitting in helicopter which is flying towards Shanghai. He seems little worried but then he comes on mood and he looks from the window of helicopter and he sees Shanghai which is on fire and he gets more scared. Then we see 9 helicopters which are chasing Gorosaurus in the city and they are shooting at him. Gorosaurus jumps over a building and 2 helicopters crash to it. Now there are 7 left. They chase Gorosaurus in the streets and it's hard for them. Then Gorosaurus swings his tail and he drops another helicopter. Now 6 left. Gorosaurus finally makes it to the airport and we see him jumping on the open field of planes and he is roaring on the background of the destroyed city. Then we see people at airport which still couldn't get in the helicopters and buses and they are watching Gorosaurus with scared faces. Gorosaurus notices them and he starts going towards them but then Kong jumped out from city and he pushed Gorosaurus in the face. Gorosaurus got exhausted and he fell on the ground. Then we started standing up and he saw Kong which was standing in front of him and he was holding axe. Gorosaurus got scared but he had to fight. He stood up and he roared at Kong with so angry face. Kong roared back and he started going towards Gorosaurus. Gorosaurus jumped up and he did kangaroo kick to Kong. Kong soon recovered and he hit his axe to Gorosaurus in the leg. Gorosaurus got angry and he bit him in the neck and he started dragging him to the city. Kong tried to resist but Gorosaurus dropped him on one of the buildings and whole building fell on Kong. It made Kong really weaker but he tried to stand up anyway. But Gorosaurus steps on him and he doesn't let him stand up. Kong tries more and more and Gorosaurus plugs his sharp toes in his chest. It's so painful for Kong. Then Kong takes his axe and he hits Gorosaurus in the leg. Gorosaurus gets so damaged and he falls on the ground. Kong stands up and he tries to hit his axe to Gorosaurus. But Gorosaurus jumps away and Kong misses. After 3 seconds Gorosaurus does his kangaroo kick again and Kong falls on the ground. But he stands up soon and he gets hit by the tail of Gorosaurus. But then Kong caught his tail and he threw him at one of the buildings. Gorosaurus stood up and he looked at Kong with so angry face. Kong also looked at him and he threw his axe at Gorosaurus. Gorosaurus dodged and he didn't get hit. Then he went towards Kong. Kong also went towards him and they clashed. Kong was punching him and Gorosaurus was biting him as usual. Then we see monarch helicopters which are shooting Gorosaurus. Gorosaurus hits tail to one of the helicopters and helicopter falls on Kong's face. Kong got angry and he started punching Gorosaurus harder. Then he finally got out from his jaws and he hit him in the neck. Gorosaurus felt a bit exhausted and then Kong threw him away. Gorosaurus fell really painfully. Then he stood up and Kong started roaring so loudly at him he roared back. After that we see the base of the Rollo where they are meeting in church-like center and Bill Chapman is telling the people that Kong won't win against Gorosaurus. But everyone is still angry and they are asking how one Gorosaurus stands a chance. Then Bill told them there is something you don't know. Then everyone got quiet and they asked what is it? And Bill said something that will increase the chances of Gorosaurus winning. We have secret drugs and elixirs that we will drop on Gorosaurus using cargo airplane. And when Gorosaurus smell them and most likely swallows them, they will make his blood cells 2 times stronger. And this is the key ingredient to winning. Then one of the men in meeting center said prepare the cargo plane. After that we see Kong and Gorosaurus which are still fighting each other ruthlessly. Kong punches him in the face but Gorosaurus hits him with his tail. Kong then takes his axe and he hits him in the neck and it knocks Gorosaurus on the ground. Then Kong was about to hit him again. When Gorosaurus jumped away, Kong threw his axe at him and he hit Gorosaurus in the leg which of course was so painful for Gorosaurus. Gorosaurus took the axe out of his leg with his mouth and he started running towards the sea. Kong caught him through his tail and he threw him back to the city. Gorosaurus stood up and he roared at Kong again but he seemed to be going out of power and Kong pushes him in the face. After that we see few trucks of the Rollo which are entering one of the airports. We see some dead bodies of cops. Then we see Bill Chapman coming down from the truck and few other troops with him. Then we see that troops are taking out some large boxes around 12 feet and they're taking them to the bay of cargo plane. Then we see them attaching the boxes inside the bay and we see Bill and other troops which are getting on the plane. Then they shut doors and they sit on the chairs and they are lifting off and we see beautiful shots of cargo plane flying up. Then we see Bill inside which is smiling and he says today I will avenge my father. Today we will revenge our family members. And the cargo plane flies in the clouds. Then we get back to Kong and Gorosaurus which are still fighting each other but Gorosaurus is trying to escape from Kong. But Kong decided that he will kill Gorosaurus no matter what and he would finish this nightmare once and for all. Then Gurosaurus hit his tail to Kong and soon he made his kangaroo kick. Kong got knocked out on the ground and Gurosaurus started digging the ground. Kong woke up and Gurosaurus had already climbed underground. Then Kong tried to dig the ground too, but he felt so tired and he sat on the ground. He wanted to have a little nap, but then he saw Gurosaurus pulling his head from the ground and he is roaring. Then Kong gets angry and he punches his chest. Then we see the cargo plane of the Rollo which is appearing from the sky and it's launching the boxes of elixirs and they all drop into the mouth of Gurosaurus. Gurosaurus feels strange and he jumps up from the ground. He feels more free and stronger now. He feels like he is born to kill Kong and he goes towards Kong. Kong tries to hit him but Gurosaurus quickly dodges and he hits his tail to Kong and he drops Kong on the ground. Kong tries to stand up but Gurosaurus jumps on him and he stands on him. Then he looks at Kong which is trying to stand up with evil face as hell. Then he roars as the sign of victory. Then he feels some pain in his stomach. He looks down and he sees that Kong plugged his axe in his stomach. Gurosaurus felt so big pain and Kong stood up. He took him through his tail and he threw Gurosaurus away. When Gurosaurus fell, axe got even more plugged and it increased the pain. Then he tries to swim in the ocean but Kong takes him through his tail and he throws him back to the city. Gurosaurus falls on the ground with so miserable face. Then Kong goes towards him but then we see cargo plane which is shooting at Kong. Kong jumps up and he damages the wing of cargo plane and cargo plane with Bill Chapman and others inside crashes. Then Kong looks back at Gurosaurus which is trying to stand up. Then Kong takes out his axe from the stomach of Gurosaurus and he hits him in a neck so strong and Kong cuts off the head of Gurosaurus. Then he throws his axe away and he roars. Then he feels tired and he gets passed out on the ground. Then we see Monarch members and military which are searching for survivors cause city wasn't completely evacuated during the battle. Then we see George and Brooks which are arriving at Shanghai. Then George says, "Oh my God." Then Brooks came with him and he told him, "George, you were always right, but about this Gurosaurus I was right." Then George laughed and he looked back at Kong. We see that Kong is waking up. George gets scared and he tells Brooks to not move but Brooks laughs and he says that he is no threat to them. Then Kong stands up shakily. He looks at innocent people. Then he turns back and he starts going towards the beach. Brooks laughs and George gets a bit confused. Then Kong stops at the beach and he roars as the sign of victory. Then he starts swimming into the ocean and he disappears soon.
When you break it up, you'll see who had it all. You had it You said you wanted to fall into oblivion. Forget about the world we're living in. Fall into oblivion, oblivion. Oh, go in.
In post-credit scene we see space and we get to see Jupiter. Then we hear some monster sounds at the sky. In end credit scenes we see some underwater caves and we soon get to see Air Pocket in there. Then we see Godzilla which is sleeping there, but after 10 seconds he opens his eyes.